Hey everybody, welcome to today's Paint With Me video. Today I'm doing a kind of like silver lining cloud scene. I found this picture on Pixabay and I'm not gonna try to reproduce it exactly. I'm just kind of using it as an inspiration, although it does turn out pretty close to it. I basically wanted to see how the silver lining and the rays come out and, just how to dissect the cloud itself. So I'm starting the background using Liquitex acrylic inks. I like to use that in my backgrounds a lot because it looks like watercolor for the most part, but once it's dry, it's not going to move. Unlike watercolors, watercolors can lift up a little bit if it gets wet again. So I know that I just want a real light background and I don't want to have to worry about messing it up. So I'm putting down some yellow and then I mixed up a sort of purplish gray tint that is close to the other tones that I see in that sky. And I want it to be very soft, so I've put a wash of water down first and then just very lightly adding some washes of the colors. As usual, I'll put links to all the supplies I used below. Of course, I use my heat gun in between the layers so that I know that it's completely dry. So now the background is dry. I decided to use a little gouache for the cloud. I've never really done a cloud like this before, so I'm just kind of figuring it out as I go. You always work from the background forward. I want to put in the highlights to the cloud, so I mixed up a little white and yellow. You can barely even see what is going on here, but it's there. Just kind of doing the outline of the cloud just so there's a little more brightness back there. As you can see, it changed a little bit here because I wasn't really feeling the painting that day and I was afraid I was going to do a bad job, so I just quit for the day. I moved the painting over a little bit the next day and retaped it because I wanted to have the palette in the picture. Starting once again doing some more highlights with the white gouache mixed with a little tiny bit of yellow. Just going around the edge of the cloud to reinforce that glow that I'm gonna want. Now I'm adding a little bit of the more vibrant yellow. It's more of a golden yellow, I guess. Just adding fluff here and there. I feel the same about clouds as I feel about trees. They're very freeing because they're all different. You can't really mess it up. So it's just a relaxing thing to paint. I got some gouache. That purple was a gouache, and then I am mixing in some of the Liquitex acrylic ink to get the dark purple for in the cloud. These mediums you can definitely mix together. I mean, the only thing you really can't mix together is oils and water-based, but these are all water-based. I love how the inks are very obviously inky. I don't need a lot of body to the paint. I just wanted to get the color, so that's just what I decided to use, and it turned out pretty good. So I'm just going in with various shades of this purple, adding the contrast to the clouds wherever I see. In the picture, it has different spots that are, you know, like a more of a light purple, so try to do some variations in there. This part takes a lot of patience for me because a cloud is so simple and you think, oh, just slap down some fluffy shapes, but I really want to get all the little details of the cloud and get the shapes to look realistic. So it's a little bit time consuming. This entire painting from beginning to end took me about an hour. So I realized the sky needed more contrast as well. So I diluted the purple color that I was just using to very light wash and adding in some more in the background, but being careful not to touch the silver lining. I gotta let that stand out. I always start with the very lightest wash because once it's too dark, you can't go back. But if it's too light, you can always add more. Just building up layers. Adding another layer here because it still needs more contrast. It's working on the inside of the clouds a little more. One of the things I've realized through the years as you're working on a painting, if you think it looks just drab or just there's something not right with it, half the time it's because you need to add more contrast. For some reason, I always am afraid at first. I'm afraid of adding too much, so I just keep putting in layers and contrast, and the more I add, the better it looks. So I would encourage you to give that a try. Need a little more yellow, so added another layer, and I'm drying in between. I felt like it needed some more very light highlights, so I mixed up some white with just a touch of yellow, carefully adding it to the edges. In the very center, there is actually a sun peeking out in the picture, so just kind of lightening it so it looks more glowy. Just reinforcing the edges with more very bright contrast. Now I'm adding in a little more yellow. At this point in the painting, I thought, oh, it's okay, but I feel like it just needed something, and I couldn't tell what it was. I don't know, I just kind of sit around and troubleshoot it in my brain while I'm doing it. Does it need more contrast? Does it have another color in it that I'm not really seeing? So yeah, I started to add more contrast. I made it even darker, purpley blue, very bold, and just trying to notice what part of the clouds had this, because it wasn't as much around the edges, it was more towards the middle of the fluff. So I wanted to even make the yellow even brighter, so I'm going on with another layer with the Liquitex acrylic ink, just wherever I think it needs it. So this is kind of a weird thing. I thought it needs something, so I tried adding some pink watercolor, and I don't like this, so I just kept putting it on and then taking it back off. But so I found a even brighter orangey yellow to use around the edges. This is actually from my White Nights watercolor palette. It's just a watercolor orange that I thought I would brush around the edges, give it a little more vibrance, glow effect. So at this point, I feel like I am pretty satisfied, and I feel like if I work with it much more, might ruin it or muddy it up. So we're coming to an end here. I was pretty happy with it. It's one of those things where I feel like up close when I'm looking at it, I don't like it 100%, but far away, I think it really does capture the cloud. So yeah, I mean, it was fun trying to figure out how to do this cloud with the silver lining and just kind of troubleshoot and go through, figure it out. So here's the glorious tape peel that everyone loves so much, so I slowed that down to real time for your enjoyment. I always use washi tape around the edges, by the way, just it makes a nice little frame, and there you have it, a beautiful silver lining. I hope you enjoyed this paint along, and I hope it was helpful for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Join me on Patreon. I have lots of fun rewards going on there. And I know this is released to my patrons earlier than YouTube, so enjoy that. Thanks a lot for everything, and I hope you have an amazing day.